Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. And we have, I think, an important announcement for today. For decades, the United States has led the world in science and technology, research, development. Without a doubt, we're the world's top innovator. Billions have been spent investing in research and development. This has given our country advantages, both economically and militarily, that have benefited the daily lives of American citizens. It's no surprise that our geopolitical rivals around the world would take notice. That is why they often try to steal our inventions, defraud us of the proceeds of our investments. Too often, they've been successful. Discoveries that took years of work and millions of dollars in investment here in the United States can be stolen by a computer hacker or carried out the door by an employee in a matter of minutes. This theft is not just wrong, it poses a grave threat to our national security, and it's unlawful. But under President Trump, the United States is standing up to the deliberate, systematic, and calculated threat posed to us around the world, and in particular by the communist regime in China, which is notorious around the world for intellectual property theft. Earlier this year, a report from the United States Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer found that Chinese sponsorship of hacking into American businesses and commercial networks has been taking place for more than a decade and is a serious problem that burdens American commerce. The problem has been growing rapidly, and along with China's other unfair trade practices, it poses a real and illegal threat to our nation's economic prosperity and to our competitiveness. Perhaps this threat has been overshadowed in the press by threats from Russia or Islamic terrorism, but while it has been in the shadows, the threat has only grown more dangerous, as I have been informed from the day I first came to this department. From 2013 to 2016, the Department of Justice did not charge anyone with spying for China. But since the beginning of 2017, we've charged 3 people with spying for China or attempting or conspiring to do so. And when it comes to trade secret theft, we are currently prosecuting 5 other cases where the theft or attempted theft was for the benefit of the Chinese government. In 2015, China committed publicly that it would not target American companies for economic gain. Obviously, that commitment has not been met. Just ask GE Aviation or Trimble of Sunnyvale, California. So today, I am announcing another economic espionage case against Chinese interests. And before I do that, I want to remind everyone that defendants in this case, as in every case, are innocent until proven guilty. So I am announcing that a grand jury in San Francisco has returned an indictment alleging economic espionage on the part of a Chinese state-owned, government-owned company, a Taiwan company, and 3 Taiwan individuals for an alleged scheme to steal trade secrets from Micron, an Idaho-based semiconductor company. Micron is worth an estimated $100 billion. It controls about 20 to 25% of the dynamic random access memory industry, a technology not possessed by the Chinese until very recently. One of the defendants served as president of a company acquired by Micron in 2013. He left the company in 2015 and went to work for the Taiwan defendant company, from where he is alleged to have orchestrated the theft of trade secrets from Micron worth up to $8.75 billion. The Taiwan defendant company then partnered with a Chinese state-owned company so that ultimately China could steal this technology from the United States and then use it to compete against us in the open market. This is a brazen scheme. If convicted, the defendants face up to 15 years in prison, $5 million in fines, and the companies could face forfeiture and fines worth more than $20 billion. This week, the Commerce Department added the Chinese company to the entity list to prevent it from buying goods and services in the United States, to keep it from profiting from the technology it stole. And today, the Department of Justice is filing a civil action to seek an injunction that would prevent the Chinese and Taiwan companies from transferring the stolen technology or exporting products based on it to the United States. We are not just reacting to the crimes, therefore, we are acting to block the defendants from doing more harm to our United States-based company, Micron. United States Attorney Alex C. of the Northern District of California will provide you more information on this case in a moment. But again, I want to remind everyone that the defendants in this case, as in every case, are innocent until proven guilty. As the cases I have discussed have shown, Chinese economic espionage against the United States has been increasing, and it has been increasing rapidly. We are here today to say enough is enough. We're not going to take it anymore. It's unacceptable. It's time for China to join the community of lawful nations. International trade has been good for China, but cheating must stop, and we must have more law enforcement cooperation with them. China cannot be a safe haven for criminals who run to China when they are in trouble, never to be extradited. China must accept the repatriation of Chinese citizens who break U.S. immigration law and are ordered to be returned. So we'll continue to charge wrongdoers based on carefully conducted investigations done with integrity, done with professionalism, not politics. And we will seek extradition of criminals. To be prosperous, trading partners, integrity and cooperation are essential. That is a fundamental principle. And today I'm focusing more of the Department of Justice resources to counter those threats. I am announcing that I have ordered the creation of a China initiative led by Assistant Attorney General John Demers, who's with us here, who heads our National Security Division, and composed of a senior FBI executive, 5 United States attorneys, including Alex, and several other Department of Justice leaders and officials, including Assistant Attorney General for our Criminal Division, Brian Benchkowski, who's also with me today. This initiative will identify priority trade theft cases, ensure that we have enough resources dedicated to them, and make sure that we bring them to an appropriate conclusion quickly and effectively. This administration's new initiative will address 2 major responsibilities of our National Security Division: the Foreign Investment Review Staff's review of investments and licenses in U.S. infrastructure and telecommunications, and the Foreign Agent Registration Act unit's work to counter covert efforts to influence our leaders and the general public. So this will help us meet the new and evolving threats to our economy. Today we see Chinese espionage not just taking place against traditional targets like our defense and intelligence agencies, but against targets like research labs, universities, and we see Chinese propaganda disseminated on our campuses. And so I have directed this initiative to focus on these problems, as well as to recommend legislation to Congress if that's found necessary. China, like any advanced nation, must decide whether it wants to be a trusted partner on the world stage, or whether it wants to be known around the world as a dishonest regime, running a corrupt economy, founded on fraud, theft, and strong-arm tactics. Our wish is to have a trusted partner. Our wish is for a relationship that gets better in the years to come and helps ensure a peaceful world for centuries to come. The President has made clear that this country remains open to friendship and productive relations with China, Nothing is more important for the world. We want our relations to improve, not get worse, but these problems must be solved. The problems must be confronted. The threats must be ended. This Department of Justice and the Trump administration have already made our decision. We will not allow our sovereignty to be disrespected, our intellectual property to be stolen, or our people to be robbed of their hard-earned prosperity. We want fair trade and good relations based on honest dealings. We will enforce our laws. We will protect America's national interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. Whether by co-opting employees, by computer intrusions, or by a combination of both, agents of the Chinese government are systematically stealing our nation's intellectual property for the benefit of their own companies and their own nation's strategic interests. To counter this activity, the Attorney General has launched a nationwide initiative, and I'm honored to lead it. To glimpse the scope of the problem, just look at the recent cases that we've charged. In the case we unsealed today, the defendants are alleged to have misappropriated the intellectual property of an American company and gone to a different company to use this privileged knowledge to clone illegally a product to compete with the American product. Just 2 days ago, in the Southern District of California, we charged 10 defendants, including co-opted company insiders, working for and acting on behalf of the Jiangsu Ministry of State Security, also known as the JSSD, an arm of the Chinese intelligence services. According to the charging documents, the defendants conspired to hack U.S. and European defense and aerospace companies in order to steal information to develop a Chinese version of a commercial airplane turbofan engine. Just over 3 weeks ago, in the Southern District of Ohio, we obtained the extradition of a JSSD intelligence officer who was alleged to have attempted to co-opt an employee of a defense contractor in order to steal trade secrets related to commercial airplane engines. In September, in the Northern District of Illinois, we charged an individual here in the U.S. who acted as a source for a JSSD intelligence officer, helping him, among other things, to assess engineers and scientists for recruitment. In August, in the Northern District of New York, we charged an individual with stealing turbine technology and sending it to China. And so it goes. Taken together, these cases and many others like them paint a grim picture of a country bent on stealing its way up the ladder of economic development, and doing so at American expense. This behavior is illegal, it's wrong, it's a threat to our national security, and it must stop. The National Security Division has a variety of tools available to deal with this problem. First, we can bring prosecutions. These prosecutions have a variety of benefits, including deterrence and education. But the bottom line is that through the criminal charges, civil injunctions, entity listing, and other economic tools, the U.S. government is making a coordinated, concerted effort to deprive the thief of the benefit of his crime. In addition, when the Chinese use their financial clout to buy or make strategic investments to gain access to American technology or to personal data, the National Security Division will work with our partners on the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States to protect our sensitive technologies and data from national security risk. And when Chinese activity turns the malign influence of American politics in order to further China's economic and political agenda, we will use the Foreign Agents Registration Act and related criminal and civil tools to ensure full transparency. China wants the fruits of America's brainpower to harvest the seeds of its desired economic dominance. With the Attorney General's initiative, we will confront China's malign behaviors and encourage them to conduct themselves as the leading nation they aspire to be.
Thank you, John. The Criminal Division fully supports the Attorney General's initiative to counter Chinese economic aggression. Every day, the Chinese engage in efforts to steal American trade secrets and commit other illegal acts intended to enrich their economy at the expense of American businesses. These acts are not only carried out by the Chinese government and its agents, they also are carried out through companies and individuals who commit crimes here and abroad. American citizens and businesses suffer as a result. To counter these efforts and complement the work of the National Security Division, prosecutors in the Criminal Division work collaboratively every day with the United States Attorney's offices around the country to bring charges against Chinese companies and individuals for theft of trade secrets. And today we're announcing a commitment to redouble our efforts in this area. We see it time and again. Chinese actors have stolen wind turbine technology in Wisconsin, agricultural research in Kansas, cancer drug research in Pennsylvania, and software source code in New York. Wherever we see examples of this kind of criminal behavior, the department will investigate it and prosecute it to the fullest extent possible. We also will continue to work hard to ensure that offenders face justice in United States courts. Our Office of International Affairs is the focal point for all extraditions around the globe. And in just the last few years, the department has successfully extradited 9 Chinese individuals, including 2 for theft of trade secrets. Long prison terms for these offenders help to create much-needed deterrence. The Chinese government has also shielded its banks from our lawful requests for evidence. This policy has resulted in rampant money laundering of criminal proceeds in Chinese banks. The Chinese financial system should not be a safe haven for criminal enterprises, and Chinese banks should not have an unfair advantage over American ones. We know that Chinese companies and individuals have also bribed government officials in other countries in order to win contracts. The Criminal Division is fully committed to enforcing the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, and bringing these offenders to justice will help create a level playing field for American companies in foreign markets. In short, the Criminal Division is committed to bringing every necessary resource to bear in support of this effort. We're proud to be part of the initiative with our partners in NSD, United States Attorney's offices across the country, and federal law enforcement. We'll work hard to do our part to assure fairness in the global economic system as we continue to fight this threat. Now I'd like to turn it over to Deputy Director Bowditch from the FBI.
Thank you, Brian. Good afternoon. So very quickly, I want to thank the Attorney General and the Department of Justice for their efforts in this regard. This is a serious threat to our country. The threats we face in the national security realm have never been more complex. And today we're standing before you focused on one country that continues to pose one of the broadest, most complicated, and longest-term threats we face. That country's China. Actors working to benefit China are the most active perpetrators of economic espionage against this country. Every type of business is at risk, big companies, small ones, those located in major cities, small towns, even in urban areas. And those looking to infiltrate companies, or in many cases, steal trade secrets, are not what you'd necessarily expect you'd see when you think of traditional espionage actors. Often these individuals are insiders, employees working in the targeted company. They can be students or others in the larger academic community conducting authorized research, but then sharing the results with others without approval. Networks of people are used to piece together, bit by bit, the various components of our sensitive processes, our proprietary data, and our state secrets. These unconventional actors are becoming the new face of the China threat. They seek to gain any advantage on the global stage through whatever data they can pilfer. Nearly every one of our 56 FBI field offices throughout this nation has investigations into economic espionage that lead back to the country of China. We've had cases where actors have targeted corn seeds in the field of Iowa, software for wind turbines in Massachusetts, and in this case, complex semiconductor memory technology from a company based in Boise, Idaho. The Chinese government is not pulling any punches. They're strategic in their approach. They actually have a formal plan set out in 5-year increments to achieve dominance in critical areas. Our response to the DOJ initiative is very favorable, and we will support it in all regards. But we're bringing all of our investigative resources to bear against this threat to protect the United States and our interests. We're using a broad set of tools and allies. We use our traditional law enforcement authorities to arrest malicious state actors. We might also work with the State Department to have a subject's visa revoked. We might work with the Departments of Commerce and Treasury to sanction a foreign company for misconduct. And we might work directly with a U.S. company itself to help identify and remove an insider threat. We know we've got to be in lockstep with our partners at every single level. We're not just standing up here today, shoulder to shoulder at a press conference. We work together side by side, shoulder to shoulder throughout this country with the U.S. Attorney's offices in all the districts to ensure we're doing everything we can to identify and mitigate threats, which include the prosecution of wrongdoers. We're also working with our state and local law enforcement partners. They are often, as in many cases, the first ones who are called when businesses and people in communities across the U.S. suspect foul play. But as I said, we're going to need the help of partners at every level. That's why we work very closely with American businesses and corporations throughout this country. There is a very good sharing of information that goes on between us and them, as well as with our university partners throughout this country. It will take all of us working together to combat these threats, the threats we face from China, and to protect the security and the stability of our economy and our way of life for many generations to come. Next up, I'd like to introduce the U.S. Attorney of San Francisco, Northern District.
Thank you, and good afternoon. My name is Alex C. I am the United States Attorney for the Northern District of California. As you have heard today, the Department of Justice announces that a federal grand jury in the Northern District has handed down a criminal indictment. As I will explain, that indictment describes an alleged criminal conspiracy between 3 individuals, one Taiwan corporation, and one additional company funded by the People's Republic of China. These 5 defendants have been charged with conspiracy to commit theft of trade secrets, economic espionage, and a conspiracy to commit economic espionage. The defendants are United Microelectronics Corporation, or UMC, Fujian Jinhua Integrated Circuit Company, or Jinhua, Chen Zhuangzhen, or otherwise known as Stephen Chen, He Zhenting, otherwise known as J.T. Ho, and Wang Yangming, otherwise known as Kenny Wang. The Department of Justice also filed a civil complaint under the Economic Espionage Act against some of these same defendants. We bring the civil lawsuit to prevent further dissemination of the trade secrets and to prevent any products using the stolen technology from entering the United States. The trade secrets at issue involve leading-edge technology referred to in the indictment as DRAM technology. The technology involves what was at the time of the alleged theft some of the most advanced semiconductor computer chips in the world. The chips were designed and manufactured by Micron Technology, Inc., or Micron, a United States company. The DRAM technology at issue is based on research and development and other proprietary information worth hundreds of millions, perhaps billions of dollars. UMC is publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange and is headquartered in Taiwan. The company mass produces logic integrated circuit products. UMC generally did not create its own designs and technology. UMC did not possess advanced DRAM technology prior to the alleged theft of Micron's trade secrets. Chen is a Taiwan national who worked for a Micron subsidiary from 2013 until 2015. After leaving Micron, Chen began working for UMC. He recruited a number of Micron employees to join him at UMC, including Ho and Wang. And Chen allegedly conspired with Ho and Wang to steal, convey, and/or possess Micron's trade secrets to benefit UMC, and ultimately the People's Republic of China. In February of 2016, the People's Republic of China created and funded Jinhua for the purpose of designing, developing, and manufacturing DRAM. UMC and Jinhua entered into a technology sharing agreement, negotiated in part by Chen, whereby UMC would design DRAM technology, transfer that technology to Jinhua, and Jinhua would mass produce the DRAM. Instead of designing and producing DRAM from the independent development of intellectual property, the defendants in the indictment conspired to steal the technology from Micron. This indictment highlights the benefits of cooperation between high-tech companies and law enforcement. The Northern District of California is home to countless innovative companies, including those in Silicon Valley. We take seriously the need to protect the technology that forms the backbone of our modern economy. By working with victim companies, we make it possible to bring to justice those who would steal the technology developed here in the United States. Whether the theft is carried out by a foreign government or a standalone company, we will prosecute those who steal our trade secrets to the fullest extent of the law. This case is also an example of how international law enforcement cooperation among like-minded partners can support global trading rules and counter state-sponsored economic espionage. Taiwan's dedication to enforcing Taiwan's own trade secret laws was apparent throughout the entire process, even while investigating a large Taiwan company for its role in trade secret theft. I would like to thank Taiwan's Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of Justice Investigations Bureau for their efforts and cooperation. Taiwan's capable law enforcement professionals demonstrated their commitment to mutual legal assistance with the Department of Justice and the FBI. And I also, as a representative of the U.S. attorney community, look forward to working on this China initiative. Finally, we thank the FBI and the National Security Division for their hard work and assistance, which allowed us to bring this case forward today. Thank you.
Okay, questions?
Question for you, Mr. Demers. This problem has been talked about for years, and as you've all mentioned, there's the resistance coming from the Chinese government. What specifically are you looking for in order to break the resistance that's coming from the Chinese government? What more can you get from the White House or other parts of the administration to address that issue? And then a question for you, Deputy Director Bowditch. Is there any evidence that China is interfering in the U.S. election next week?
So on the first question, so we've been doing more and more, and I think that's what I tried to lay out in the cases. If you look at the cases, obviously from the very first one against state-sponsored theft of commercial IP in 2014 against the PLA to today, the drumbeat's gotten a lot more frequent and a lot louder, I think, recently. And this is not something that we're going to do alone. We will be working with our partners in the State Department. We talked about the action that the Commerce Department took earlier this week, which was quite significant because by entering that denial order, this company will not be able to get the equipment it needs to produce this product. And so we have, what's great about this case, and kudos to Alex and his team, is that we are not coming in after the fact to try to punish someone. Actually, through this indictment, through the action, through the civil injunction, through the actions of the Commerce Department, we have stopped the harm before at least it manifested itself in a competing product in the U.S. So this needs to be an interagency effort. This needs to be a whole of government effort. But obviously, we can do our part here at the department by bringing these cases. I'll turn it over to Dave.
Thank you, John. So as far as the statements about China and any evidence, listen, what I will tell you is we are very focused on the election security across this country. Between us and the Department of Homeland Security and the DNI and our other intelligence partners, we are incredibly focused on that, and we will continue. What I do not want to do is have a number of disparate statements out there. As you noticed, the DNI put out a statement recently that was properly vetted through all the agencies, and it was agreed upon by all the agencies.
Eric.
Mr. Burris, just to piggyback on Chris's question for a second, obviously I appreciate that you guys are doing more and more than perhaps was done in years past, but as the Attorney General mentioned, there had been a prior commitment from China to halt theft of intellectual property. They then reneged on it. Given the spate of activity in recent weeks and months, what sort of response from China have you received to indicate that maybe they are newly chastened, that they have a different posture than perhaps they did before? Do you have optimism on their end?
I don't talk to the Chinese about this, but so I haven't received any response. But Look, I wouldn't say that the Chinese, I mean, their actions are not always consistent with that commitment. They've not, in fact, in words, they've not just not reneged, they've recommitted to it. They've committed to it with a number of countries bilaterally and in the G20. What we're trying to do is show that, one, we notice what they're doing. We can identify exactly what they're doing. We can call them out. We can, when we have the chance, actually bring someone here, extradite them, and prosecute them for what they're doing. And through that, increase the pressure. I mean, the ultimate goal, as the Attorney General said, is just, it's not to have a fight with China. It's to have them behave the way other countries who have achieved that level of economic development behave and should behave.
Mr. Biczkowski, can I ask you a question about the Pittsburgh shooting case? Obviously, under the rules here, you have to consult with the families in terms of deciding whether to seek the death penalty. But will you factor into that fact that a number of Jewish congregations oppose the death penalty?
Well, Pete, as I think you know, there's a process here at the department for making that determination. In the first instance, the request for that consideration comes from the United States Attorney's Office. It's supervised by the capital, or overseen by the capital case section in the department. There's a committee that then reviews those requests, and that goes on up to the Attorney General. I don't want to get out ahead of that process because ultimately the decision is one that's made by the Attorney General.
Sitting next to Sadie.
Hi, Mr. Demers, one question on the recent extradition of a Chinese national 2 weeks ago. That was a bit of a coup, that was unusual. Wondering if that has sort of emboldened this initiative, it gives it wings, if you will. You're able to prosecute more on that front. How will that factor into how you approach these cases in the future, the fact that extradition is possible and attainable?
So we would love to do more cases like that, for sure. We were planning this initiative even before that case, so I don't know that it didn't spur this initiative, but we would love to have defendants when we can. Now, as our cases also show, especially in these cyber matters, whether it's China or it's Russia or it's Iran, the fact that we don't have a defendant won't stop us from bringing the indictment either.
In 2015, obviously, you reached this agreement, and there did seem to be a consensus at the Justice Department and FBI that economic espionage by the Chinese had dipped. When did you notice it increase? And can you quantify the increase at all for us? Like, you were saying it's increasing, but how so?
Yeah, I guess I'd want to be a little more specific to what you said. I think there was a consensus that cyber-based economic espionage had decreased, not that Chinese economic espionage had decreased, right, overall. So it's a question of tactics as well. I don't know that I can quantify it. Obviously, some of the private sector folks are out there and they have tried to quantify it more than we have been able to so far.
I guess not quantify it, but characterize it. Like, is this
Not as low as it used to be.
All right, let's do Aruna and then
So the AG did say that the 2015 accord has been clearly violated. That was specifically about cyber-enabled attacks, and the new case is technically not a hacking case. Have you seen evidence that they are explicitly violating the 2015 accord?
I think, so this case was not I would not call it a cyber case, right? This is about basically poaching employees from one company to another and taking their intellectual property with them. We have certainly seen sort of co-optee-enabled cyber activity, right? Which I include in the banner of cyber activity. So what I mean, sort of human-enabled cyber. So you've got the pure cyber intrusions that are just kind of computer to computer, and then you have cases where we have folks who've been co-opted and are enabling within their own companies either the intrusions. So we have seen some of that. I think as for sort of the other issues, I think I should leave those for now.
Have you seen an increase in the cyber, though? Also, the cyber hacking, have they gone back to that?
We've seen an increase in the cyber. I mean, I don't think anyone ever said they had stopped that completely, right? Folks had said that it had fallen off and then.
Right, Evan?
Yeah, so the Attorney General mentioned briefly, I think, that the Chinese refused to accept repatriation of certain Chinese criminals. My understanding is that previously one of the concerns on the United States part was, you know, the terrible human rights records and the treatment of people once they were returned to China. Is that not a thing anymore? Do we want to return people to China to face their justice system?
I don't know that this is really an issue that folks on this stage have dealt with. Yeah.
Get back to you.
Right.
We'll end with Andy, who we don't get to see a lot.
Thank you. In the past, there's been a lack of cooperation from companies in these cases, alerting you of intrusions or intrusion attempts. It seems that that's changed lately. So the GE case, there was a lot of cooperation. In this case, obviously a lot of cooperation. Are you seeing a change in companies, and why?
I don't know, Dave, if you want to take that. I mean, I think the short answer is yes, but
Yes.
Dave, maybe you want to comment on that.
Yes, with some vacuums here and there. The fact is there are still some folks that are reluctant, some companies that are reluctant to bring us in early. I will tell you the concerns vary, but because of the relationships that we're building across the sectors, that issue is diminishing. It's not gone, but it's diminishing. Some of the concerns were actually surprising to me. I can tell you we do not have the resources, the time, nor the interest in going beyond the thing we're trying to seek within the company, which is the intrusion. We're trying to identify it, mitigate it, curtail it, and then ultimately remediate it and attribute it back to wherever it came from.
What's the progress that's in Sony, for example, which happened?
Much better. Quite frankly, Sony's a great testimonial because they brought us in early on, and they do talk in the private sector about that often, about how important that was. It was very important to us with respect to the attribution. It was also very important to them.
Okay, thank you guys, and thanks for the last minute changes that you guys rolled with. If you have questions for